I wanted to take a chance to talk you through the presentation we did in class just in case you need to relearn some of the things that we moved quickly through. So we're going to take a look at the 5 demand shifters. And shifters is just a way of generically speaking about determinants. And we know there are 5 determinants of demand. Now, the first one is change in taste. And we're thinking about change in taste as in a change of preference for a certain item. So we used the example in class that if there's a heat wave, how is that going to affect the demand of ice cream? Now, ice cream's price doesn't change because ice cream's price doesn't change every hour, every day based on temperature. Instead, what we see is during a heat wave is that people's preferences for ice cream change because of the heat. So we see an increase of demand. And anytime we increase supply or demand, we do a right side shift, we relabel demand to curve, and we bring that price point out to meet our new demand curve, which equals quantity demanded to. So as we increase demand, we always increase the quantity demanded. Even though there's no price change, there is an increase in the quantity demand here. If we look at our second determinant, we're thinking about change in income. And this change in income is happening today, right now. We're putting more money into the pockets of individuals. And the more money you put into the pockets of individuals, the more they're going to buy new items and the less they're going to buy an inferior item. So if we looked at the income increase and how it impacts new cars, we know that if we put more money into the pockets of individuals, that they're going to buy more new vehicles. So let's say you get your first time you have a career in your life, it's the first time you get a salary. That's an increase in income. That means that you are going to purchase more of new cars instead of used cars. Did we change the price of a car? No. We changed the quantity demanded at that price. So if the price was 40,000 before, it still is. The difference is more people want it because more people have money so they can afford it. Now, if we were to look at this as a price or an income decrease, let's say you had less income, that means the demand for used cars would increase. So we would see a further right side shift for the demand for used cars because with less of an income, you demand more of an inferior good. Our third determinant is change in market size, and that's just the number of consumers available to purchase an item. So sticking with cars, let's say that we lowered the driving age to 12 years old. If we did that, we would have more people in the market that would be available to purchase cars. So cars as a whole would see a demand increase as you add more individuals. More demand for both new and used cars in this case. So we're going to shift that demand curve to the right. We're going to label it D2, and we're going to bring that price point over to show that increase in the quantity demanded to, even though we didn't change the price of the good. Our fourth determinant has 3 different parts to it. Expectation of consumers about future price, future availability, and income. Now the problem with this determinant is that most people think of consumer expectations as consumer preferences, but that's change in taste. So the only 3 things that this can pertain to is future price, future availability, and future income. If we were to take a look at our first scenario here, Steve Jobs' response to irate customers who bought the iPhone at $599 and says, sorry, we will raise the price back to $599 in 3 weeks. People expect the price of the phone to go up in the future. Notice in this example, we are not changing the price of a phone because it's not going to change for 3 weeks. We know the future price is going to change. So if you buy it now, you save money. So at that current price of $399, more people are going to purchase it because they know the price is going to rise in 3 weeks and they want to get it while it's cheap. So we see an increase in demand while not seeing a change in price, but we do see an increase in the quantity demanded. If we were to look at future availability, let's say there's expected to be a major shortage of toilet tissue. So consumers, if they fear there's going to be a shortage, they go out and they hoard. So do we change the price of toilet tissue? Nope. All we do is we shift the curve because we see an increase in the quantity demanded at that price. So right side shift, we see now labeled D2. We bring our price out and we see that quantity demanded to is now increased. If we look at our last one, we're talking about future income. And really what we're looking at is a positive future outlook. So if we're coming out of a recession and we were graphing the demand for new houses, then consumers, because they feel secure about their jobs, are going to increase the number of houses that they are going to purchase, even though the price of houses hasn't changed, because now they have a positive future outlook. If you feel like you're going to have money for a while, you're going to take out a 30-year mortgage. If you feel like you're not going to have money for a while, let's say you're heading into a recession, it's probably better to buy a house at that time. You might get better interest rates, but most people aren't going to buy a new home when we're heading into a recession. Instead, they fear a negative future income. So we see a left side shift here of demand with our new demand curve, and at the same price, we see a decrease in the quantity demanded. Now, our last example is the price of related goods, and this is when we're looking at substitutes and complements. So, cereal here is the normal good. The normal good is where the price change happens. And when we say Pop Tarts are a substitute, that means if I don't have cereal, I'm going to have a Pop Tart. When we say milk is a complement, we say that if I'm going to have cereal, I'm going to have milk. Regardless of your personal preference, as soon as we say it's a complement, that's what it is. So we're going to decrease the price of cereal here. And if we decrease the price, we don't shift the curve. We shift along the curve. And we see an increase in the quantity demanded because we know that as price falls, quantity demanded increases. That's the law of demand in action. Now, if we're going to purchase more cereal because quantity demanded is increased, that means we also have to purchase more milk, which means if we're buying cereal and milk, we're not going to purchase as many Pop Tarts. Now, there's no price change in milk or Pop Tarts. So, in order to change the quantity demanded, we have to shift the curve. So, if we're going to show without price change that Pop Tarts are going to decrease in quantity demanded, there's your left side shift, changing your quantity demanded. And for milk, the quantity demanded has to increase, no price change, so you have to shift the curve to the right. Now, if you have any further questions about this, I would suggest rewatching it a couple times, and then we will be doing some practice problems in class, and I would be glad to talk out anything that you may have a concern about as we go forward.